He's so veiny. He's so veiny.
Aloha and welcome to yet another episode. Can you believe this thing is still on? Of He's So Vaeni. I am your host, Jeremy Vaeni, and this is my excuse to belittle people. No, this is where I tell you, to the best of my ability, what I do know, what is truth, what is false, and what is fact or fiction. These are different things. All four of these are different things. I'm going to be listening to or watching Uncontrollable Involuntary Movements During Meditation. Talks with Joel. Won't you please watch with me and let's see what Joel has to say. I have not seen this, so, but I know about it. So let's see if Joel knows about it. Let's see what you think. Does he know more about it, or do I? Or are we going to be on the same page, and then it will be irrelevant? We'll be like, isn't that great? We all live happily ever after? I think we know historically what the answer to that is going to be. All right.
Uncontrollable involuntary movements during meditation. Should I try to stop them, or is it okay? How can we better... Oh, these are two totally different questions. Okay.
Wait a minute. Where's Joel just wearing a fake beard? Like, where? Is he actually in India? Where is this? What? Who is this Joel? I'm squinting at the image now on my computer because I'm enthralled with Joel as a human being. Is this guy an actual guru, or just some dude who woke up and had some coffee and turned on a camera and is like, I'm going to read a fake thing? Well, either way. I mean, I guess you could argue that that's what I'm doing, right?
Uncontrollable involuntary movements. So this is a good sign. And actually, this is a good sign. Sometimes it can be like kind of violent, like shaking or jolt. Sometimes it can be like a kind of wild swaying. Sometimes it could just be that kind of feeling of like that. So what happens is that we're blocked up. Physically, emotionally, mentally, we're constipated. As a result, when we look at the animals, they're all so at ease in their bodies. Never question, oh, my body, what should I eat, where should I go, like that. No, there's such a sense of gracefulness and ease that we see all around us in nature where life is living a natural life. But now with all of this modern thing and convenience and stuff, then we're barely using our bodies, and so everything is a bit out of whack. So our bodies are stuck, our nervous system, the flow of our blood, our organs, our intestines, we're eating so much food, everything so is stuck. Right, and the energy is like low. And so in meditation, what's happening is we're building up the pressure, and through the breath and through the veins and arteries and nervous system, and then then energy is starting to move up. Normally, gravity, everything is moving down. And so when the energy, this fire, meditation is like a fire. When we heat the fire, then this energy, this primal energy that's at the base, starts to rise up, and all this stuff that's black starts to unblock.
Okay, so I'm confused-ish by what the energy is he's talking about. Because if he's talking about Kundalini, it's not really true, although we hear this all the time about Kundalini. If there is another energy that does this when you meditate, well, I don't know about it because I don't meditate. When I talk about meditation, like I meditate, I go out in the gazebo and I meditate, all I'm talking about is I literally shut up for a second and Kundalini, whatever word you want to use, Kundalini energy takes over or, comes alive, flowers, and it is doing, this impersonal will maneuvers the body, and Jer takes a back seat. Still there thinking and blah after my moment of silence, but I'm not moving. And some of that movement is as he is describing. It can be that. But I would also say that, and I don't think he's saying this, but people say it in these, at least the Kundalini videos I've seen, talk about these movements as if they're spasms and jerky and all of this. like they're meaningless, and they're not. They always have a point, which I think he's getting at. And sometimes the point is like the moving the head around or moving the body around isn't just like, oh, you've got energy blockages and stuff. It's literally like everything in your body is interconnecting. And like if you've got a crick in your neck here, it may click and then your hip problem is gone, at least for a little while or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that kind of interconnecting chiropractic kind of stuff is also a part of it. So the point is, it's always got a point. There's always a reason, and it is always to better your health in a psycho-spiritual or usually physical way, however that shakes out. Literally shakes out sometimes. So it's not just like weird spasms and stuff. But I don't know if there's another energy that he's talking about that is a meditation, prana or something, some other word I know very little about, that does that in the way he's talking about. Because what I'm talking about is, again, there is a will that comes alive, flowers, blossoms, whatever, in the moment of silence, that is impersonal and can do those things and or other things. So it's a bunch of things that could happen. Just like my will right now can do a bunch of things. I can talk to you, I can walk around, I can get food, I can do all these things at the same time. So people who talk about at least Kundalini as just doing these things, they don't know what they're talking about. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about yet, but I'm intrigued.
So at times, right, that can produce subtle or sometimes very extreme and violent. I mean, some people, it's like they're literally, their body's jumping up and down. Such a strong charge of energy is moving through their system. Oh, so this is like a real, like electrical energy. Right? In some path of yoga, like my tradition of Kriya Yoga, they said the whole purpose is to train your nervous system to be able to handle that charge of energy. Because when the energy comes down, it's like you get fried. Like electricity, when you plug something into a smaller current, then it explodes. It can't handle that amount, that pressure, that light. And so the same thing is happening. So in meditation, as we start to open our channels and this flood of light energy is pouring in and awakening from within us, then that can cause different type of spontaneous movements. Right? One thing is if we're doing it. Another thing, the movement is spontaneous. Now usually when this happens, we feel kind of blissful, almost this bodiless, like very light. We feel very light and like expansive. And so it's clear, so it should be clear, like this is not a bad thing.
I just want to say this about what he's saying here. So Kriya Yoga, I don't really know what that is. I know the word Kriya means spontaneous movement. So wouldn't Kriya Yoga be spontaneous yoga? Because if it's not spontaneous yoga, and it doesn't sound like it is, it sounds like they're doing something, then are they just basically admitting to replicating the movements, the Kriya movements that happen naturally when one is Kundalini alive, as I've talked about before on other shows, Our Undoing Radio. I don't know if I've talked about it in He's So Vaeni. But essentially yoga and these various breath works and meditative stuffs all happen to you for free without your knowledge when Kundalini is alive. It does these things, and it does them in the proper healthy proportion to your body's needs of the moment, which are personal to the damage that you have done to your own body, and through your own age and whatever else, all of that. But when we learn a yoga technique, we're learning a system that I've never taken a yoga class, but I would assume it's like anything else. You're being told you do these movements and you will gain these benefits or get these effects. But does that take into account your own personal damage, or that you don't need to do those repetitive movements over and over again forever? Because when Kundalini comes alive in the body, yes, sometimes there are movements often that I recognize from the last time I did it. But there's also new things that happen. And there's also different combinations of the old things and the old things and the new things. It's whatever is necessary in the moment. There isn't that with something that you learn and is repetitive. So if anyone out there knows, I guess I can look this up on my own, but it's more fun to include you. Then you're likely to subscribe and interact with me, right? So ring a bell or do whatever, do a dance. And like this video. Yeah, do all of those things. Dance, like, subscribe, ring bell. But no, so someone tell me, Kriya Yoga, is it yoga that is emulating the spontaneous movements that someone just jotted down while Kundalini was, doing its thing through a person? Because if that's so, then is it possible that part of what these kriyas are doing, these movements that should be spontaneous but aren't, they're coming to you as a repetition through knowledge and through practice, are they activating you to be moving around in funny ways and feeling electricity or whatever? Because that's what would happen during Kundalini. But what you're being told is it's preparing you, it sounds like he's saying, for some big event in your life, some big electricity coming down upon you or electric thing coming as a blissful thing. That part I would be suspicious of, because if you're doing it as a replica, the whole point is that Kundalini becomes you when you're not there. So for you, the sense of self to vanish, to be nothing, is the moment when this can healthily and wholly come about. So if you're trying to force it in a way where you're still there, you're the one activating it and deactivating it to get some sort of response, like all of that is wrong. So it may be giving you effects, but it's not giving you the sea change, because the sea change happens in your absence. The sea change is your absence. So at least in terms of Kundalini, it's not there to evolve you or to further you. It's not something that you learn. It's something that in your absence is the case. And you get there through understanding yourself so deeply that, essentially you dissolve. There's no other way to say it. You dissolve. The body, the brain, you become less and less once you, just like if you just think about your own psychology, in dealing with your own psychological baggage, your own childhood issues or your issues nowadays, you feel better, right? Less anxiety, relieved, or whatever it is. That thing isn't in charge of me. That thing isn't always on my mind. Well, the more of those you take away, the more you realize, oh wait, there's still an entity there who claims to be the mind that is feeling better in relationship to these things coming and going. What about that person? That's also a thought construct. And, once the brain gets that and realizes, I'm seeking truth, I'm seeking the ultimate, I'm seeking my own whole fulfillment as a human, I can't get there with me. I am in the way of that. When the brain actually gets that, you dissolve. So why would you want to learn techniques that happened after the fact of that dissolution, that cannot bring you to that dissolution, that can maybe have some let's call them cheap parlor trick effects, which maybe, that's to downgrade them in comparison to like being whole, but in the world in which we live of cheap parlor trick effects, they might be more healthy than what you've got. Like not just feeling better mentally for a minute, but maybe they do help you out physically in some way. Stretching is good for you. Exercise is good for you. We all get that. But again, I think it's shortchanging you and keeping you asleep by introducing systems that happen spontaneously when one is quote unquote awake.
At times it can feel, depending on how the pressure and stuff, it can be slightly uncomfortable. But no, we should just let it go. We don't need to you know, to add to it or anything. If it comes, and then settle back. There should be some kind of like turbulence in the plane, and then after, wow.
I guess the other problem I have with this is that because you can learn all of these things, as I've seen on many a YouTube video, you can just fake it, to fit in, because you want to either fit into the crowd or you want to be the master who has mastered it. You can see these people in these videos doing their shaking and their moving and stuff and pretend like you're the master of that, or that it's happening to you too. This is group psychology dynamics, and this is also self-centered narcissism dynamics. And we see this all the time. So it's doubly unhelpful in that way.
The energy rises up all of a sudden, we can feel. So no need to control that or force that. It's a natural part of the process. It's okay. No need to stop.
I would agree with that. I think, all of this stuff I'm talking about sounds judgy, right? But the fact is, for you, who is experiencing, the way out of being this self, one of the ways out, one of the sort of things we got to do is stop judging and reacting. So if you do spontaneously start moving around or shaking or something, in response to Kriya Yoga, and it is authentically happening. Now I'm skeptical that it can, but I'm not 100% certain that it can't. So if it's happening to you and it's authentic, don't judge it. Don't, even if you feel fear, let yourself feel fear. Don't do anything about that fear. If you feel joy and elation, feel it in the moment. And when that goes away, if it goes away, when it goes away, don't go chasing it. Just let it happen. And do that with everything. Stop chasing everything, damn it. Stop running away or to things. And once, you're in a place of no movement, perhaps something moves you. I'm glad we watched this, because this is the first time I've seen something where I'm not sure. So that's interesting, right? Again, I'll just reiterate, if he's talking about that this is Kundalini, because he did talk about primordial energy or something at the root or the base of the spine, and that all sounds Kundalini-ish to me. But there may be other energies there as well. But if that's what he's talking about, he's wrong. If he's talking about another energy that does these things, or that we store, as he's saying, sort of energies in various pockets, that can cause us to react when they're relaxed. If we're clenched up like a fist and we relax that fist, if we've been clenched up for so long, it may be shaky relaxing that fist. All of that stuff may be true. I can dig that. So yeah, I guess maybe this is where I reserve my final verdict and ask you, what do you think? What do you think? See, I'm still working on the hand gestures, folks.
He's so vainy.